Across the Gambia and around the world, this is Atlantic TV News broadcasting from our studios in Farata West Coast region. Out of stories this hour, preliminary census results released by the Gambia Bureau of Statistics puts the country's population at 2.4 million. Activists petitioned the National Assembly to compel government to release names of individuals allocated state lands with details of each allocation. Deputy Speaker Honorable Sidin Jai and NAMS take stands against ministers over insufficient answers as the issue of coming to the National Assembly without sufficient answers come to play. More witnesses testify at the Commission of Inquiry into Dealings of Local Government Councils as ex-Birkama Area Council CEO Modu Jonga admits council single-sourced over 120 transactions. Away from home, UN Security Council renews Sudan's sanctions amid efforts to restore peace in the conflict-torn country. And the Alu Dam collapse causes major flooding in Maiduguri, Nigeria, with over 200,000 people affected. That's the top of the news and much more coming ahead with me, Alaji Mbaye. Many thanks for joining us. Now the news in detail. A preliminary report released by the Gambia Bureau of Statistics from the just concluded census has revealed that the population of the Gambia is 2,422,722, and out of this figure, 51% are female against 49% male, as reported by the Standard newspaper. The report also revealed that Birkama is the most populous local government area, accounting for 47.5% of the country's population. The report, launched recently by Vice President His Excellency Mohamed B.S. Jallow at the Saudada Kairaba Jawara International Conference Center, further revealed that the Gambia's population is predominantly youthful, with 40.8% under 15 years of age and only 3.0% age 65 years and above, meaning this dependency population is likely to put pressure on the working age population. The data shows that Gambians make up the overwhelming majority of the country's population, accounting for 95%, while Senegalese are the largest foreign nationals at 1.7%, which is 40,849, followed by Guineans at 1.5%, which is 36,077, and other nationals, including Nigerians, Sierra Leoneans, and others, each representing less than 1% of the population. Speaking at the luncheon, Nyakasi MB Sanyang, the Statistician General at Gambia Bureau of Statistics, said the 2024 census represents a pivotal achievement in national development efforts. The census, Sanyang explained, is a comprehensive enumeration of all individuals and housing units across the country. The data collected provides a fundamental basis for policy making, development planning, and resource allocation, according to the Standard newspaper. Moving on Wednesday, 11 September 2024, three prominent activists, Babukar Nyang, Omar Kamara, and Madi Jobate, submitted a petition to the Clerk of the National Assembly requesting the body to investigate the allocation of state lands to state and non-state officials, individuals, organizations, and businesses between 19th January 2017 to 31st December 2023. In the petition shared with the Standard newspaper, the activists also requested the full disclosure of names of all individuals allocated state lands during the same period, as well as the size, physical state, location, and the dates of both application and allocation of the piece of land for each beneficiary. The activists also requested Assembly to determine whether the allocations met the due processes without any element of undue influence, bribery, or any inappropriate official conduct. According to the activists, the purpose of the petition is to inquire into the allocation of state lands to ensure that these allocations were done in line with the 1997 Constitution, the State Lands Act 1991, and the Land Acquisition and Compensation Act 1991, and all relevant laws of the country. This petition came out of public concerns over allegations of unfairness, inappropriate and illegal allocation of state lands by the executive. The petition added that the petition specifically refers to the President, the Vice President, Cabinet Ministers, National Assembly members, senior officials in ministries, departments and agencies, judicial officers, private companies, business persons, private citizens or individuals, state institutions and non-state institutions or organizations according to the standard. Still on National Assembly matters, at question time at the National Assembly on Wednesday, 11 September 2024, several lawmakers, including Minority Leader Honorable Alaji S. Dabo, Honorable Lamin Kamara and Honorable Seni Jawara, took issues with Minister Hamad Ba of Lands and Regional Government over alleged failure to provide sufficient answers to questions put to him about allowances given to area councillors. However, the juicy part of the drama over the matter was eventually played out between the Deputy Speaker Honorable Sidi Njai and the Minister. Njai, who was supervising in the absence of the Speaker Honorable Fabakary Tombong Jatta, argued that while ministers have an obligation to give responses to questions, he as Speaker does not have authority to compel them to answer the way lawmakers wanted. However, when the Opanyomi representative Omar Dabo asked when was the last time elected councillors' allowances were reviewed, and Minister Ba replied that he has no answer to that since he was not the minister at the time, Deputy Speaker Njai was not amused, according to the Standard newspaper. He told the minister that substantive holders of institutions under their watch are expected to be more responsive and own up to issues under them since government is continuity. But Minister Ba charged that he cannot leave without responding to the Deputy Speaker's allegations against him. But the Speaker interjected and put off Minister Ba's microphone, telling him to allow him make his point. The minister also fought back, saying, "But you are accusing me and I need to clarify." Njai did not listen and continued to add that he was not accusing the minister but only making a general statement to ensure cabinet ministers or the vice president avoid finding excuses like "I was not in office" when providing answers to lawmakers. Minister Ba, however, insisted that he needed to clarify. Deputy Speaker Njai agreed with Jawara and asked Minister Ba to now make his point. Minister Ba reiterated that he was only avoiding misleading the Assembly by giving them figures that are not accurate. He said he does not have the figures on how much allowances councillors are paid and cannot furnish this House with misinformation. Many National Assembly members from across the political divide praised the independent arbitration of Deputy Speaker Njai. This story is courtesy of the Standard newspaper. Moving on, former Brikama Area Council CEO Modu Jonga has admitted that some 120 transactions were single-sourced at the Brikama Area Council in 2020. Now posted at the Banjul City Council, CEO Jonga was continuing his marathon testimony before the Local Government Commission. The CEO was locked in a long argument with lead council Patrick Gomez on GPPA's 2020 Compliance Review Report, which surprisingly awarded an impressive 86% score to Brikama Area Council. Council Gomez, who believes this score is not a true reflection of the situation, argued that there is evidence before the Commission in which GPPA officials themselves accepted compromising standards on procurement. He asked CEO Jonga if he believes the 86% score is a fair assessment given that there was no procurement plan at the Council in addition to not conducting a market survey before doing procurements. Mr. Jonga replied that although there was no procurement plan and non-conduction of a market survey, there have been improvements in other areas of procurement within the Council which make him consider the score as fair. But Council Gomez continued that the fact that the GPPA admitted having compromised its own standards, its assessment may not be justified, to which Jonga replied, "Until this day, I consider this score to have been a reflection of the true state of compliance." According to the lead council, the Brikama Area Council in 2020 conducted 173 transactions, out of which 120 have been single-sourced without any competitive bidding process. Council Gomez further asked Mr. Jonga to indicate how fair and transparent these single-source transactions have been, and the CEO said all these single-source transactions were approved and that tendering depends on the threshold of the transaction. He, however, admitted that the absence of a competitive process in procurement compromises value for money and accountability mechanisms. The Council's chairperson, Jainaba Ba, also intervened, saying she has gone through Council's capital and general expenses, and most of the transactions she saw, including a $3.9 million hiring of vehicles, software cost of over $576,000, and digging of a sockaway for over $500,000 are way beyond the ceiling of tender and single sourcing. Yes, they should have been competitive instead of single sourcing, Jonga admitted, as carried by the Standard newspaper. Moving on, a panel comprising members of the Gambia Armed Forces, operatives of the country's State Intelligence Services, SIS, the Gambia Police Force, and officials from the Ministry of Justice is currently investigating how alleged jungler Bora Koli entered the country, according to the Point newspaper. A source who spoke to the Point on the condition of anonymity has confirmed the development, saying the panel is not only investigating how Bora Koli entered the country, but where he was staying, who he was communicating with during his time in exile, among others. Bora is one of the alleged junglers who allegedly committed heinous crimes and left the country with the exiled former Gambian leader Yahya Jammeh. Koli reportedly returned to the country last month and surrendered himself to the authorities. He was arrested and detained at the Yundum barracks, as reported by the Point newspaper. The Vice President, His Excellency Mohamed B.S. Jallow, who recently went on a work visit to Senegal, said there are border issues between the two countries, and that is one of the reasons we actually focus on the issue of Senegalo-Gambia Permanent Secretariat, because that is the body tasked by the two countries to actually manage the border. He added there is supposed to be a joint border commission. Each country has their border commission, and the Senegalo-Gambia Permanent Secretariat is tasked to chair the two commissions together. In terms of defense, there is joint border patrol to ensure that there is no intrusion in either sides of the border. There has been this discussion about the border for a very long time, and the Ministry of Lands was able to come out with the map that was created by the French and the British dating back to 1965, which is now in possession of the Gambian authorities, he stated. He emphasized that the demarcation of the border between the two countries will be carried out by the Senegalo-Gambia Confederation to avoid conflict in the future. The discussions also touched on hot pursuits, he added, saying the Senegalese side raised their concerns and the Gambian side also gave their responses. One of the problems we encountered is the implementation of the hot pursuit. The hot pursuit agreement says that if somebody commits a crime, the one side can pursue up to a distance of 5 kilometers and then the other side take over from there. What has been happening is more times when the Senegalese pursue, they do not inform the Gambian authorities. However, our meeting clarifies this, and hopefully we will have a less issue going forward. Now, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice Dawda Jallow has revealed before the National Assembly members that the Secretariat to the Steering Committee on the implementation of the TRRC recommendation has been providing technical and secretariat support to the selection panel on the selection of commissioners for the Reparations Commission since its inauguration on the 5th of March 2024. He revealed that the Secretariat is compiling the final report and recommendation of the selection panel to be submitted to the Attorney General. It is expected that the report will be approved by the selection panel at the end of September 2024. The names of 9 proposed commissioners have been gazetted by the Ministry of Justice during the first 2 weeks in October last year. These names will be formally submitted to the National Assembly for further scrutiny and shortlisting to 7 names, he revealed. The call for application and nomination of commissioners for the Reparations Commission was opened through the month of April, and 66 applicants in total were received, he said. Upon compilation of interview scores, it was revealed that a person with disability did not acquire the required scores to be recommended by the selection panel. As a commissioner, he explained. Section 12 of the Victim Reparations Act states that the composition of the commission shall include 7 members, 3 of whom must be women, 2 must be victims' representatives, other 2 youths' representatives, and 1 must represent a disability organization. Therefore, the Secretariat requested for additional nomination from the Gambia Federation of Disabled and Oath. On the 9th of August, interviews of the said persons were conducted according to the Point newspaper. You're watching Atlantic TV News with me, Alhaji Mbai. Now, away from home. In the internationals, the United Nations Security Council has adopted a draft resolution that extends sanctions on Sudan until September 2025. The extension is aimed at helping to end the conflict that has dragged on for almost 17 months. Details in this CGTN report.
The humanitarian situation in Sudan, according to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, makes the country one of the world's largest displacement, food security and children's crisis. Over 20% of the population have fled their homes either internally or across borders. At the UN Security Council meeting on Wednesday, debate on whether to extend sanctions against the Horn of Africa nation took center stage. Sudan alleged foreign interference was fueling the conflict.
There's irrefutable evidence that this war that we're experiencing is a result of the support of the UAE for militias that are committing war crimes and crimes against humanity in Darfur.
The UAE's representative dismissed the remarks as baseless.
His claims are utterly false and are a cynical attempt to deflect attention from the failings of the Sudanese armed forces. Despite the immensely high stakes, the SAF has shown zero political courage. The warring parties have caused this catastrophe, and only they can end it.
The UN Security Council then voted in favor of extending a sanctions regime on Sudan. This included targeted sanctions such as asset freezes, travel bans, and an arms embargo until 12th September 2025. The draft resolution is a technical rollover of measures previously renewed in March 2023.
Renewing the sanctions measures will restrict the movement of arms into Darfur and sanction individuals and entities contributing to or complicit in destabilizing activities in Sudan. All of this is critical to helping end the escalating conflict, alleviate the humanitarian catastrophe, and put Sudan back on the path to stability and security. The United States remains committed to the Sudanese people and will continue to work closely with Sudan, colleagues on the Council, and all stakeholders to facilitate peace for the country and the region.
As the international community continues to pressure warring factions to end the conflict, for the people of Sudan, they continue to live in dangerous and desperate conditions. Joy Kiruki Juma, CGTN.
Now, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Human Affairs says the collapse of the Alu Dam in Maiduguri resulted in the worst flooding in the area for more than 30 years, adding that over 200,000 people have been affected. CGTN again.
Most parts of Maiduguri city in Borno State, Nigeria are now submerged. Residents have to wade through murky waters scouting for safer places. Their homes now flooded ruins.
Almost the whole of our shops are affected at the Monday market. The whole of our shops near El Kenemi runabout down to post office.
The Alau Dam in Maiduguri overflowed its banks on Tuesday following heavy rains. Over 200,000 people have been affected by the severe flash flooding, according to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. The city's Sanda Kiarimi Zoo was also not spared, with over 80% of animals there dying. Authorities have urged residents to take precaution as an unspecified number of reptiles like crocodiles and snakes have been washed away. The National Emergency Management Agency has been conducting rescue operations and says they have set up temporary shelters for the victims, The number of people reportedly dead is still unconfirmed.
We are here with some of our colleagues to see how we can actually evacuate those that are stranded in some of these locations who have been getting calls all over of people stranded in their homes and on rooftops.
Nigerian Vice President Kashim Shettima condoled with affected residents as he visited the affected area.
The President has given the assurance that the federal government will stand firmly behind the government and people of Borno State towards ameliorating the pitiable conditions of our people. We are talking to the organized private sector for them to further reinforce the efforts of the Borno State government. Honestly, Your Eminence, the tragedy that we have seen is well beyond the capacity of the Borno State government alone to shoulder.
The UN Refugee Agency in Nigeria says this is the city's worst flooding in 30 years. The flash floods are occurring against the backdrop of nationwide floods, which have so far claimed more than 200 lives and affected more than 800,000 people across 29 states, according to data from the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Jean Keo, CGTN.
Oil is South Sudan's leading foreign exchange earner, but the conflict neighboring Sudan disrupts South Sudan's ability to export. As a result, less money is coming into the country and the living cost continues to rise. Details in this CGTN report.
Oil is the leading foreign exchange earner for South Sudan, but the country's oil flows through Sudan then on to the international market. But fighting in Sudan has caused major disruptions. As a result, less money is coming into the country and the cost of living continues to rise in South Sudan. Traders say they are struggling to keep their businesses afloat.
You will sell sometime for 3 days because the market is not going quick. From there, after doing so, you will sell after finishing. When you go back, you will find the price is up again. Things are very expensive.
We cannot afford to get money for the rent, money for the council, money for upkeep our families, and the money for giving our children to school. We are now offering nothing.
Severe floods are exacerbating the country's food crisis and pushing cost of food up. South Sudan's government says it has signed a memorandum of understanding with China to help resolve food crisis and, in the long run, fight off inflation.
Areas of cooperation that actually include in this memo are development of agriculture and food security policy, production and marketing of the food, research, innovations and extension services, animal productions, animal health and aquaculture.
However, for now, as the prices of goods go up, salaries for most civil servants have not increased and often arrive late. It is now 9 months since civil servants last received their salaries. Many here can at most afford a meal a day, but they keep hoping that their government will come up with a solution for the inflation. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
You're watching Atlantic TV News with me, Alaji Mbai. A quick reminder of the headlines this hour. Preliminary census results released by the Gambia Bureau of Statistics put the country's population at 2.4 million. Activists have petitioned the National Assembly to compel government to release names of individuals allocated state lands with details of each allocation. Deputy Speaker Sidi Njai and NAMS have taken stand against ministers over insufficient answers as the issue of allegedly coming to the National Assembly without sufficient answers came to play. More witnesses have been testifying at the Commission of Inquiry into the dealings of local government councils as ex-Birkama Area Council CEO Modu Jonga admits council single-sourced over 120 transactions. Away from home, the United Nations Security Council had renewed Sudan's sanctions amid efforts to restore peace in the conflict-torn country. And the Alu Dam collapse had caused major flooding in Maiduguri, Nigeria, with over 200,000 people affected. That does it for this hour. Many thanks for watching and enjoy the range of our interesting programs.